Kenyan citizen has got the right to representation. Can you imagine that since April 27th last year, when the Speaker of the National Assembly declared the Banisa parliamentary seat vacant in Mandera, the Banisa constituency parliamentary seat has remained vacant to date. They have no MP in parliament because the MP died. May his soul rest in eternal peace. And the reason is that there has been no IBC in place. So I would have imagined that those who are in power would be moved to fast track the IBC amendment bill and say within 2 months from November last year we have it in place. And here we are. Here we are. So the people of Banisa and very many other wards that have also lost MCAs deserve to be represented. And therefore it is important that this bill be concluded and it becomes an act of parliament for an IBC to be constituted, for the IBC to be reconstituted, so that it can continue to undertake its mandate. But more importantly again is the issue of the limitation of boundaries. That has to be done through the constitutional amendment that is proposed. Because as you know, we are already 3 months late. We are three months past the deadline for the limitation that was to happen by March this year. So for the delimitation to happen now, we have to open that bracket again, that window. That can only happen through an amendment to the Constitution, which we have proposed through NADCO. Again, it is the right of every Kenyan to be represented. We know for sure that there has been a lot of gerrymandering in the past with constituency boundaries. And that's why we can't afford to go to the next elections without a delimitation and review of boundaries. I keep on hearing the mantra of one man, one shilling, one vote. The best place to deal with it is through this delimitation first. I keep on hearing. I don't know whether it is official policy of Kenya Kwanza or UDA. I'm not sure. You know, a person occupying a high office as a DP, a deputy president, cannot just voice an opinion. He must be speaking the official policy. So we don't know whether it is official policy of Kenya Kwanza now that we go one man, one shilling, one vote. We are waiting to hear. But we want to challenge everybody who is responsible to first and foremost focus on fast-tracking the amendment bill on the Constitution for us to get it right from the word go. Finally, it's on the political parties. It's also an amendment to the Political Parties Act that has been proposed with far-reaching recommendations, if only to strengthen the institution of political parties as the foundation of our multi-party democracy. I am glad Madam Anne Derito is here. She has been very, very useful in her current role as the registrar of political parties. We shall continue to work closely with her as we midwife this process. We shall continue, Your Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka, to work with the registrar of political parties. She has been very supportive. Very, very supportive. So I don't want to really go beyond that. For now, I want to sit back and listen to the citizens. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless you.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Opiyo Wandayi for those very important remarks and history of why we are here, and therefore the role of the citizens. Remember always that we are talking about the Citizens Legislative Conference. Legislative means that we are talking about legislations. Legislations mean that we are talking about laws. So in this process, what is our role as the citizens? Amka! Oh, mulisahau. Amka! Stay woke! Stay woke! When I went there, Mheshimiwa Kalonzo told me to remind you that you can as well say stay water. So it can be stay water or stay water, right? Depending on which one fits. So, Mheshimiwa, Madam Registrar of Political Parties, in this crowd is a host of very many political party leaders. And I'm sure that you can identify with a number of them. And they're here because of one of the proposals in the amendments of the NADCO bills, the Political Parties Act that creates the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties. One of the proposals is, of course, to amend that we scrap off and replace the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties with what is called the Political Parties Regulatory Authority. What does this mean? One, to political parties, and also to the Office of Registrar of Political Parties. Tafadhali tupige makofi tumwalike Madam Registrar to also come and speak to us about the implications of this NADCO proposal on the Political Parties Act. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, and the party leader of Wiper Democratic Movement, Honorable Wadai, the minority leader in Parliament, all members of Parliament present, and all the political party leaders present, and the citizen in this hall this afternoon. Good afternoon. I want to start by saying this is an important forum where the citizens are allowed also to ask questions to the leaders and also interact with the legal process and procedures as it is required. I'm here to talk about political parties and their role in registration, in the legislative process. And I want to note that first of all, the purpose of any law, anywhere in any country, is first of all to articulate the rights of the citizens. Two, any law is supposed also to address the regulatory framework that can be there so that human beings must be regulated as far as behavior is concerned. Without laws, sometimes you miss the point that you are not able to really identify with the people, and especially when it comes to behavior. And one of that regulatory process is the political behavior of Kenyans. And that's why probably the Political Parties Act was created so that they bring the regulatory framework of our political parties and therefore by extension the political behavior. Law is not static. I totally agree that law must adjust with the society. When the society changes and the circumstance changes, so should be the law. So that's why when we are discussing about the NADCO bills and the legislation framework, we are cognizant that circumstances keep changing. And secondly, from an electoral practitioner point of view, after elections, we do what we call post-election evaluation. The reason for post-election evaluation as a country is first of all to identify the gaps, and two, to look at the areas that we never did very well so that we bring on board legislation framework that will address the issues that were a problem in that electoral cycle. So I'm speaking from that perspective, that law is not static, that law keep moving depending on the society and the circumstances that are there. This very location of one house has a rich history in many things, including engaging and coming up with the solution that made the country move forward. But so that I'm not really verbose, I want to really talk about the Political Parties Act and probably touch just little on any other law that affect elections, because I practice elections and governance, and especially governance of political parties. In 2001 is when we had the first Political Parties Act bill, which was sponsored. It was that particular time is funding, was on funding of political parties, which was sponsored by Ford Kenya then, Muskari Kobo, And it went on and on until 2007. That is when we had the first Political Parties Act, 2007, which now delinked the office of the legislation of very many other several changes. One of the other proper review was done in 2011, which now an independent institution through the Political Parties Act. We are now facing another review, which also probably circumstances have changed, and that's why we are saying then we need to review the Political Parties Act. But I have a few questions we ask ourselves. First of all, we must understand what exactly are we fixing. That should be the number one question when we are reviewing the Political Parties Act. If we are fixing independent and strengthening the institution, then we should look at the tenets of an independent institution. What does it entail? And I have three or two issues I would want to bring, especially to the people who participated in NADOC process, that probably when we are looking at the reform, we need to look at. And I thank Opio Wadai, the leader of minority, for saying that we shall work closely together, because we should create a law that is meant for posterity and helping the governance of political parties and also the institutions that regulate those political parties. The first thing, when we appeared in Bomas, us and many other people had wanted the office of registrar, whether in its current form or whether in a commission, to be put in the constitution. Why? Because that is one of the tenets of constitutional independence. This office is now established under the meaning of Article 260 of the Constitution, which creates and allows creation of such independent offices that that operationalizes the Constitution. When you now bring a commission, and then we now would not fall under the Article 260, and then it doesn't fall under Chapter 15, then the issue of constitutional independence bring a problem. Probably you may want to look at that when we are progressing, so that we make sure that this particular office is anchored in law. That have been done on the Constitutional Amendment Bill in regards to Article 91 and Article 92. The background at which the political parties are formed. But I don't know what can be the problem if we just also import the office itself into the Constitution, because political parties are well established in the Constitution. So it will be prudent if we bring the office that regulates in the Constitution. That will create constitutional independence. Number two, I read that the published bill, the one that was published at the Senate, indicate two things. Does not connect with the current office of the Registrar of Political Parties in any way. Why? Because it doesn't provide any transitional clauses at all. So meaning, scrapping an institution and create another one from the scratch, or do we want to transform an institution from one level to another? Are we reforming an institution? So that if that is the case, then we need to provide squarely a lot of transitional clauses, because as it stands now, we stand a risk of saying even the political parties then as they are established do not exist. The records and assets do not exist. I will bring to attention that there's a lot of work that has been done to institutionalize that office, and a lot of money that has been used, so that transitional clauses should be provided to be able to connect the office together with the... As a practitioner in the area, I want to tell you the infrastructure as the bill presents face a challenge, may bring a challenge. One, because but the people who are regulating are coming directly from political parties. So my wish was maybe this should be a process of where we recruit people who are completely in the regulatory work. One of the concerns as a regulator is that we have removed even the regulatory function. We are creating a regulatory authority with zero regulatory function. Actually, under section 3, the bill has removed the requirement of regulation from the regulator. Then what shall be the regulatory, and it has the name regulatory, be doing if it doesn't have the regulatory ability? Political parties are very important in terms of ensuring good governance and democracy in a country. Therefore, when we are establishing a framework that actually regulates them, it should therefore not be short of very clear structures on how then the regulation will happen. The bill also does not even provide what are the disqualification and qualification of people who shall be members of that commission. And it also does not give clearly what will happen to the current office holders and also the staff of the OLPP. So in a nutshell, we have done a very comprehensive response to the call for memorandum to the Senate, but in a nutshell, that is some of the issues that we really need to look when we are looking at the NADOC process. Allow me also to talk about one or two issues on, just in 1 minute. I know you want to come, but it's just in 1 minute. One, I'm also, as a practitioner in election, there's also the Election Offences Amendment Bill. One of the provisions there talk about that it will be an offense for a polling station official not to transmit result within 2 hours. But then it doesn't qualify some of the circumstances that can lead to delay. Some of them it's network. And some people have to move from one polling station all the way probably even near the tallying center. So I want it aligned with the realities on the ground as far as election management is concerned, so that you don't criminalize for a PO who is actually one of our children. It may be your son, because these POs are young people. And if you criminalize that you don't post the election within 2 hours, then it's criminal. It can be a problem to those young people. So if we really outline the circumstances under which then that delay can happen, it can also be very good. Finally, I have seen in one, I think it's still with the Election Amendment Bill, that an office, that's the dispute resolution between the commission and the returning officers is being transported from the commission to the judiciary. I've been IBC for 10 years or more. That one will actually interfere with the electoral timelines. When the dispute between a returning officer and a candidate, to me, it's my considered opinion, but I'm a practitioner and I have done that in the area, should be left to the commission. Let the commission deal with their own returning officers, so that the timelines are not interfered with. When it goes to court, it can go. At what point shall we print the ballot papers? I rest my case.
Asante sana, Madam Mwasiji. Registrar in Swahili ni nini? Msajili, very good. Hiyo. Madam Sajili kwa misemo mazuri sana in terms of her understanding of the proposed NADCO amendments, particularly on the Political Parties Act, on the creation of the Political Parties Regulatory Commission. Very important for us citizens, because the Constitution of Kenya gives us only two ways in which you can get elected into either of the elective positions. Either as, one is, how do you become a governor for Nairobi? You become elected, isn't it? Or you can run as an independent candidate. So all those things therefore affect even you up there. I see you who ran for office. And in the event that some of these recommendations are picked and made law, of course, we have very clear implications. So thank you so much, Madam Registrar. And as we saw, only one bill has been executed. So the very good points that you have that you've talked about here, we'll request you to also share them with us. Then as we build onto our memorandum, we can as well also, when that time comes, we can be able to share them. I know that we are now itching to engage, ask our questions, and to speak to these particular processes. And the reason why, as County Governance Watch, we sought to identify the practitioners, the people who have the detailed info, is so that we do not run the risk of either being misquoted or running a propaganda machine. And hence the reason why we looked for the co-chairs of the NADCO process and also the leadership of the House, because really, as we said, legislation happens at that legislative house. I have received a text message, Mheshimiwa Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, our chief guest and keynote representatives from Kenya Kwanza in the House. And so at some point, we'll also allow them to speak. Mheshimiwa Arnold Maliba, please. Thank you so much. Arnold, Mheshimiwa Senator Malala, that is been held up somewhere on his way here. And then we also have Anthony Communication. Anthony, yes, he's seated. Please just stand and wave. So thank you so much. The chief opens up, will give you these proposals on the finance bill. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, nani kati yetu atatusaidia kumwalika Mheshimiwa Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka? Mheshimiwa, ngoja tu kwanza. Mheshimiwa,
asante. Asanteni sana Bwana. Amka. Before I came here, I had stay woke. Sit up. I thought this is almost dozing sometimes, because I don't know, or maybe the subject. I saw Mheshimiwa top of his voice making register. Mheshimiwa Esther Passaris, si Mheshimiwa hapa, Secretary General wa Wiper. Senator Shakil Abdallah. We came a little late, and so we missed out on some of the presentation. Are worthy of to what I've been asked to do. I don't know what. By the way, some of the things are very serious, and I think we'll have occasion to address them separately, because if they fall under chapter 6 of the Constitution, we may have to discuss how a head of state should conduct himself. If you are friends, keep them as friends, because under chapter 6, even when you are given a gift, yani hukutaka niseme hiyo sio. Asante. So let's all really adhere to Constitution 2010 on integrity and the conduct of leaders. When you hear of state capture, it begins with people who say, Esther Passaris, County Representative Nairobi, you're going to give you a free ticket to Dubai. That's how it starts. It can affect also a head of state. It becomes a very serious matter. In my view, some of these are impeachable offenses. But I said I will not. For inviting me to attend this conference at Ufungamano House. Since its inception, as I said, in 1966, this center has served as epicenter of significant political conversations and movements by Kenya's opposition, Kenya's civil society, religious groups. By the way, it was the religious groups that came up with Ufungamano, and the student community advocating for constitutional reforms. Well, I came to this university in the mid-70s, early 70s, and I used to be a student at Hall 6, Nile, that we called it the Nile Hall. I know my room, so I can walk up there actually. But I wonder whether it is the same. You know, we used to have a university community, and then the male students would go to the box, and they were accused of cockroaching. Some of them found beautiful wives from that place. A community, University of Nairobi, the university. Others came after that. I know some of you went to Kenyatta, you went to Moi, but this was the place, Ufungamano. So, as I talk to you, therefore, in this written presentation, I just wanted you to know we are standing in the midst of political history, and it is good to be at Fungamano. The work of CGW, led by Executive Director Kevin Osido, is genuinely commendable. We commend you for what you're doing. And one of your 6 thematic areas, i.e. devolution and county participation, have put CGW front and center in addressing socio-economic and political development issues at the national as well as the county levels in our country. Specifically, the platforms CGW has provided for. I really never like acronyms. They're very difficult things, particularly if these are all consonants. And it's not even a vowel. CGW has provided for public participation, have helped to strengthen county government structures, giving citizens a greater say in how their resources are managed and decisions are made. In my opinion, County Government Watch has had and continues to have a distinctive and important voice because of your dedication to improving our society via citizen capacity building, which I think is what you're doing today. It is also not lost on me that this keynote address takes place on the eve of our 61st anniversary of Madaraka. Has it occurred to you? For example, we took the decision that the National Prayer Breakfast event must be on a Thursday preceding Madaraka Day. And I never like to talk about myself, but here I mentioned I was the first chair of the National Prayer Breakfast when we invited Yakub Gowon, the president of Nigeria, to come and speak at that first anniversary. And really, this has grown to be a very important institution. 61 years ago, Kenya had its first genuinely democratic elections. Lower House and Senate, as well as regional assemblies. That time, of course, people remember, younger ones, Majimbo, the call for Majimbo. And our modern name Majimbo under Constitution 2010 is devolution. As part of the constitutional transitional process agreed upon in Lancaster House, this can be considered the first real public participation act by Kenyans, our first woke movement, if you will, where the call for citizens' action was exercised by Kenyans at the ballot. The allusion to the history of Madaraka is both essential and significant, as is the reminder here of the national values and ideals our founding fathers championed when fighting for our right to independence, so that all Kenyans will be free from ignorance, poverty, and disease. However difficult the situation, allow me to send Azimio's greetings to all Kenyans as you celebrate the 61st Madaraka Day celebration tomorrow. On August 27, 2010, we promulgated the Constitution of Kenya 2010 following a referendum on August 4th. Before its promulgation, Kenyans reviewed the proposed new constitution, made recommendations and proposals, and forwarded their views to their respective members of parliament. The Kenyans from all walks of life were allotted 30 days to engage in the document that would become the supreme law of our country. That was indeed a watershed, woke movement, a watershed woke moment. Some here may even consider this our first genuine citizen-driven legislative action. Significantly, Article 1, subsection 2 of the Constitution empowers citizens to exercise their sovereign power directly. Article 10.2 includes national values, participation of the people. Article 33.1 provides that every person has a right to freedom of expression, which includes A, freedom to seek, receive, or impart information or ideas. Further, Article 35 grants citizens the right to access to information held by the state. Moreover, although Article 94 gives Parliament so authority to enact laws. Articles 118, 119, 124, 201 and 221 and 232 define public participation in legislative proceedings. Article 232(1)(d) makes it quite evident that, quote unquote, the involvement of the people in the process of policy making is a necessary public service value and principle. Therefore, we deliberately, as Kenyans, decided to make the issue of public participation a right which nobody can take away from you. Let me now take this moment to address the National Dialogue Committee, bills and the Finance Bill, and my brother Opio Wandai has spoken very clearly and elaborately on that. Let me also remind you that these NADCO bipartisan talks were a result of the sacrifices of more than 76, now we've now heard from Opio, who lost their lives during the Maandamano protests. As co-chair of NADCO, we spent months at the Bomas of Kenya, Nairobi, listening to inputs from the public, also from the executive, from county government, civil society, and religious organizations and the business community. And Fred Okango was able to take you through the agenda items, those 6 points. And of course, our number one concern that time was the high cost of living. High cost of living remains a big issue today. From your submitted proposals, we presented to Right Honorable Raila Odinga and President William Ruto what I truly believe was and continues to be the people's call to action. It then was incumbent on our representatives, the National Assembly and the Senate, to honor their voices by passing the bills without amendments. Even if you were to take into account what Anne Deritu has spoken about, the very useful critique of our thinking about a commission, a regulatory commission, as opposed to a one-person office of the registrar of political parties, which gets interfered with. Truth be said, it will go down in history that when elections were held in August 2022, Azimio Coalition One Kenya emerged the majority coalition. But what happened thereafter? Our friends in UDM were the first ones to fall to executive interference. Well, that executive interference doesn't worry me. What worries me is, what does it mean to the future of this country? I wouldn't imagine myself being a member of UDM and my grandchildren and children's others who remember will be told that you spoiled the party for Kenya. That's a very serious observation. Very serious. Therefore, integrity to political parties was a very key matter. And that's why, Madam Anne Deritu, we know you're a human being. You get a call from a president, and the issue of independence of our institutions. How truly independent are these? If we enact them, unless you get people of the caliber of former Chief Justice, for example, Maraga, who would say no? While the National Assembly adhered to the will of the people, the 4 bills that the Senate Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights considered in early May had significant alterations. I've just received a call from the minority leader in the Senate. Senator Amboy said he couldn't attend some function I'm coming from because they are there with Stuart Masayo with their eyes open. So there's not going to be some gerrymandering. Is that the country we want to live in? I'm glad that our minority leader, Kilifi County Senator Stuart Masayo, raised the red flag with the Senate Business Committee, and that Speaker Emerson Kingi stopped the process so that the said bills be corrected with what was agreed in the NADCO report and republished for introduction or introduction in the Senate. But look at the amount of time we have taken. From November, as Wandai said, it gives us the feeling, and we know that some of us never like to act in vain. We love this country so dearly that we must call out whoever is trying to take us for granted and taking the country on a ride. Therefore, the two principles, my brother Raila Odinga and President William Ruto, have a duty. They say they'll do whatever it takes to whip members in parliament and do something. But we can always see a certain amount of laxity. Therefore, we need this woke moment. And if you don't wake up, citizens, if you don't wake up and you remain as calm as you are this evening, this country will just go to the dogs. Very calm citizens. Well, I'm not asking you to be another buffalo soldier, but I'm telling you, please, the call to action, and for leaders to put action to what they have publicly announced. To be clear, this March nation demonstrated a lack of good faith on the part of a sector of the Kenya Kwanza administration. Without our lawmakers' sharp eye for detail, the 4 bills may have passed, which would have been a travesty of immense proportion. As regards the Finance Bill 2024, my sister was here. I really missed out an activist who seems to have been talking to herself, but very deeply. I think you are listening. Even if you don't listen to me, I hope you listen to, was it Damari? Diana. I hope you listen to Diana. Even if you have not listened to anything I've said today, please take into account what Diana told you. It looks to me that this government is so determined to kill the middle class. Now, during my time with President Kibaki, we were very deliberate about growing Kenya's middle class. These are the men and women driving. These are the men and women people are telling, you don't want to pay tax, leave the car at home. Sasa mambo gani haya? We tafakari mambo haya. Do you know it was a middle class who in August 2022, 8 million of them decided, oh, I cannot go to Chakaranda Primary School and queue for the whole day to vote. Now, because you didn't vote, this is what you are getting. I can bet the next election, the number 1 people to wake up Kukiratene at 5 o'clock in the morning will be the middle class. They are the ones who are overburdened, overtaxed. But what is even more tragic is after that taxation, instead of helping Mama Mboga and Boda Boda, you're putting it either in your pocket or allowing your proxies or people to go flashing out their wealth from people's taxes. Some others in Parliament, Mheshimiwa Wandai, even have the audacity to tell Kenyans that we are overtaxing bread because we have realized it causes diabetes. For goodness sake, honestly, why don't you tell them? Why don't you tell them? And we are still sitting here. That, by the way, was a cause of the French Revolution, when a certain queen said, why are these people complaining? Oh, they want bread. Oh, if you don't have bread, give them cake. Shows the level of disconnect. So, middle class, you're killing the goose that lays the golden egg. And Kenya is so unique. This is why this country has managed to stabilize. Because it's a middle class which you create the engine of growth, economic growth. But if you bring everybody to the same level, you kill our industries, because no investor will want to look at even these economic zones that Kenya Kwanza have been talking about. People instead go to 10th of Ramadan city outside of Cairo and invest because that the conditions are attractive. No investor during NADCO proceedings, do not hear appeal that over 6,000 companies migrated from Kenya to Tanzania. That is a hard truth. And how many Kenyans are without jobs? We talk of the youth bulge. If we can actually nurture the youth bulge, we will be able to make this country a Vision 2030 country. That's what we had with President Kibaki, Vision 2030. How many years do we have to 2030? And is Kenya Kwanza going to take us there? They hardly even mention the word Vision 2030. I think it's vision themselves. Going to Harambes, flush out 1 million shillings, 3 million shillings back to the era of Harambee, which is actually stolen money. So Kenyans have to wake up. I'm sorry if I sound emotional about this, because this is one of the values. We say the source of corruption in Kenya was forced Harambes and other Harambes. We can no longer claim, ladies and gentlemen, ignorance. And we must take all necessary actions to safeguard public participation as one of our democracy's core foundations and be able to uphold that promise. We must do now, tomorrow, and always, in the spirit of self-independence. We must reject the apparent tokenism of public participation in favor of true and effective public discourse and engagement that leads to a legislative agenda that reflects the desire of the Kenyan people. Kenyans are feeling despondent. Who will do what for us? You and I feel, must have the bravery and voice to tell this administration that we have the capacity, the dignity, and the right to make decisions and shape our destiny. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our self-governance moment. This is our AMCA Stay Woke moment. Thank you very much. And God bless you.
Asante sana, Your Excellency, for those very deep of where we are coming from, where we are, and where we need to go to as a people. Reminding us about our responsibility, particularly focusing on why we are here and the choice of Ufungamano as a venue. Tumeshukuru sana Mheshimiwa Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, even for accepting as co-chair of the NADCO process to grace this particular inaugural AMCA Stay Woke conversation by citizens. So ladies and gentlemen, once again tumpigie makofi mazuri mgeni wetu Mheshimiwa. Thank you so much. And the former Vice President has informed me that he has to leave, but he is willing to take only 2 questions. And then he has tasked Mheshimiwa Opiyo Wandayi and Mheshimiwa Pasaris and a host of MCAs who are here, including the Speaker of Kitui County Assembly. I remember seeing you in Kitui, my brother. Karibu. Tumpigie makofi mazuri. Asante for gracing up. So we want to give only 2 people, 1 lady, 1 gentleman, the first opportunity to ask Mheshimiwa Stephen Kalonzo a question around why we are here. The NADCO bills. Yeah, I can see the first hand and the lady there. The roving mics, please. Because this is a public discourse, you can as well just come and ask your question from here. Just tell us your name, where you come from, and straight to your question. Story mobs are how you ran for governor and you are scared about belonging to a party that was going to be deregistered, hapana. Ama namna gani? Because we also don't have time, right?
Jambo Kenya. Jambo wa Kenya wenzangu. Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka. Swali langu la kwanza. Our problem as a nation is not even corruption. Okay, thank you. So, Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka, tuko na shida kubwa kwanza kwa hii Kenya. Swali la kwanza. Are you the solution or are you another problem as the many problems we've already have as Kenyans? Number 2, Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka, direction is more important than speed. As President William Ruto greatest challenger, what direction are you taking and what different policies and lala tukiamka tuamke na matumaini na si maini zenye hazina chakula. Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka, lastly, just 30 seconds. Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka, I'm not afraid of telling you the truth. I woke up on August 8th to vote. I thought I was voting for change. What experiencing today is not the change. Musyoka, if you, Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka.
Asante sana. Huyo ndugu anataka kulia machozi sababu anashanga kwa hivyo. From his your understanding of his question. Of course, Kenya Kwanza team and then Mheshimiwa Pasaris will also give us some 2 comments about the 2/3 gender rule and the process. Process. Karibu.
Stay woke. My name is Angela. Calls observed. Peace be all unto you. Your Excellency, Mr. Kalonzo, we are aware that Kenya has been made a NATO ally. We are aware. All these changes in the finance bill, in all the changes in these bills, is it being triggered by this alliance? We know tunajua wazungu walicolonize Kenya. Now we can't trust them again. Unaona? Na Kalonzo, Your Excellency Mr. Kalonzo. If at all there's any benefit to the Kenyan mwananchi, hii agreement yenye ilimekiwa huko ina benefit aje mwananchi ama sisi ndo scapegoats za the elites wenye wako huko juu tukuje tumie? Thank you.
Asante sana dadangu. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Bwana is happening. Yes, sir. Ask you to come over and respond to. They touch on the policies and the laws and also the issues around all these changes. What is the future like? And so this is going to be the nature of our...
Where is Patrick? Oh, Paul. You voted for William Ruto. That's your right. And now you are feeling it. The winner, whenever that will be. The first thing, and I've said it, housing tax. Day one, say that. Because you're feeling that even in for round 2 of overtaxation. Of course, I'll deal with corruption. But Kenyans are tired. You say the problem is not corruption. I agree with you, Paul. Issue is inborn greed. And you just want to get there and fix everybody. Have a stone heart. The trouble is we need leaders with hearts of flesh. We seem to have friends who are now sitting in high places who are guided by that approach. Mutadu. Because we want the economy to grow, taxation should be made simple, predictable, so that a Kenyan businessman, a Somali man, businessman, mama in Gikomba, wherever, those juakali artisans kutengeneza hizo masufuria, you're going to even have to tax them. We are waiting for, when the courts, Paul said, you go back to Parliament to do, now go and tax the hope is in the informal sector right now. The other day I went to Gikomba and then went to Kamkunji, the only handicraft market which is supposed to service the tourism industry in. Well, I've seen a statement by President Ruto today saying that they have paid, I think, settled over 20 of any who was settled. Or the 10,000 shillings that we're supposed to get, they use the chiefs. Chiefs have girlfriends. Na mabibi wengine. Are you sure this money has not ended up with the wrong hands? And you are there sitting, Mr. President, now kuamini you have done your duty. But the most serious thing is what Angela, is Angela? Angela, was it Angela? I thank you for that question. Indeed, it should be the concern of every Kenyan. Any government worthy sort must commit to protect the lives of its citizens and their properties. I posed a question the other day. The United States of America are our friends. Indeed, if you know the history of this country, the friendship between the then Attorney General of the United States of America under President Kennedy was Robert Kennedy. He was a very good friend of our late iconic leader, Tom Joseph Mboya. They organized the first airlift of Kenyans to the United States, and that gave capacity. That was capacity building for the newly independent nation state of Kenya. But the friendship aside, in 1998, I remember it clearly. I was the Minister for Education, and I took an helicopter to preside over a show, an agricultural show in Hola, in Tana River County, and then flew to Garissa Technical Institute. Then it had not become a university, to preside over graduation of the teachers who had graduated that year in 1990. When I was there, between Hola and Garissa, I'm receiving telephone calls, urgent, kumepigwa Nairobi, kumepigwa. President Moi had to convene a very urgent cabinet meeting. Lest you forget, we lost over 220 Kenyans that day, and Kenyans demonstrated their ability to love each other. Nobody asked, are you Kikuyu, are you Luo, are you Mkamba, Mlaluya, Kalenjin? They were there helping each other, those ones who were wounded. Today, how many years since 1998? Can somebody tell me? How many years? 36? 26 years. I attended the 25th anniversary at the bomb blast. I remember the twin bomb blasts happened in Nairobi and Dar es Salaam, targeting the American embassy, American embassies. We became collateral damage. And we were not an ally of NATO. We were not an ally of NATO. Just imagine now to be branded and aligned. In other words, next time, instead of hitting the American embassy, they will hit us directly, wherever there's problem with Kenyan embassy, anywhere in the world. Therefore, this needed serious conversation. Let us remain bilateral, good friends with the United States of America, because there's a big Kenyan community out there. And we want them to come and invest. And on that, I think President William Ruto did his best. The digital economy, the Silicon Valley. But when you think of the American Silicon Valley, we have our Konza City, which is a Vision 2030 project by Kibaki and myself and Raila. The African Savannah. So at the end of the day, we must guard what we consider our identity as a nation state. Otherwise we will continue to be collateral damage. But this time, not collateral damage, we will be targeted. And when that happens, we will hold Kenya Kwanza responsible. Mumenisikia hiyo? I mean, naongea kabisa because of experience. Mambo haya tunayaona haya. Tunayaona. Therefore, positive non-alignment is what has kept us going. Well, I loved when President Ruto was asked a question by Richard Quest. You remember Quest means business. Hey, mnakumbuka huyo? Alimuuliza bana, sasa hii alignment, mmekuwa sasa nyinyi West. Do you know what your president said? He said, watu wanatugandamiza na hii maneno ya east, look east or west. We say we look forward. That is Kenya's foreign policy. Well, I did everything to help our brothers in Somalia. Really. Brought Abdullah Yusuf. Abdullah Qassam lives in Egypt. Because unless there is peace in Somalia, we cannot claim to have reasonable peace in Kenya. Well, I even said, although my clan here ni mnaijua, huko nilisema clan yangu inaitwa Dikli Mirifli. Because they are Huyes and the Darots. They are all Somalis, they are all Muslim, but they will kill each other because of the sub-clans. We have a difficult geographical location. With troubles in Ethiopia, I can understand why America would need to have some anchoring. By the way, that anchoring could even happen without these declarations, because these declarations can spell doom and death to Kenya. I hope Angela nimekujibu. Mungu alinde Kenya. Thank you.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka ambaye pia ni mgeni wetu wa heshima siku ya leo. Tumpigie makofi mazuri tena tafadhalini. So Chief Guest, I believe you can exit at your pleasure and leisure as we stay with Mheshimiwa Wandai and the other leaders. But as he exits, I want to invite Mheshimiwa Pasaris to also share with us a brief on the 2/3, her experience as an elected women representative, and what some of these reforms and proposals mean to us as Kenyans. Unless you are the driver of Mheshimiwa, I will request us to keep staying, because we are still going on to now engage with you as a public. Karibu.
Thank you very much. Wow, I am so proud of all of you. I mean, putting yourselves together as citizens to actually discuss the issues that are pertaining to the country. So let me stand on the protocols that were here before. Now I'm supposed to talk about the 2/3 gender. First of all, even when I look at this room, I can see, can I have the women stand up? Just the women. %, okay? Now, when it comes to the votes in Kenya, the citizens, the votes are split 50-50, almost. But we still cannot get men or women to go out there and vote for women. Okay, so we have 290 constituencies. Out of the 290 constituencies, only 10%, we reached 10% for the first time in the 2022 elections. 10%. We had 29 women in the single constituencies who battled it with men, and they won. Then we lost Alice Wahome, she went to become CS. When that election happened, a man came in. So now 28. In Nairobi, we have 17 constituencies. In the last parliament, we had Mercy Gakuya in Kasarani as the only woman. In this parliament, we have Elachi as the only woman. In the Nairobi County, where all the issues, people, water, garbage, roads, right? In the last county assembly, we had 5 women. Bit this, out of 85 wards. 5 women. This, you went down. It was not even 10%. So if you're looking at the issues, right? The issues that women want discussed, like sanitary towels, putting a bigger budget. When we go to committee meetings, you will find that if a committee has 19 members, there are probably 4 women. Out of 19 members, the women are going to equal pay, more. Okay? We proved that during the tribal clashes, all right? It was women who were hosting other tribes in their houses and hiding them. It was women who were raped. It was women who were maimed. So at the end of the day, we need as a country, first, before we start talking about the law, why are we not willing to employ women and as leaders, and why that women, we've had 2 women run for presidents, Charity, all right? Martha Karua was the running mate for Azimio, okay? But for me, we need to ask ourselves a simple question. What is it that makes us not want to employ? Harsh on women. We're very harsh on women. By the way, I recently became a shosh, okay? And I'm very, it's a blessing to live up to 60 this year, all right? And to have a granddaughter, okay? But when you go on social media and you're called shosh, it is like your time is up, you're no good. Na ukiitwa mzee na heshima yake yote. Some of the issues that you have are because you don't have enough women in government. We've never had a woman president. We've never had a woman deputy president. We are having very few governors who are women now, and they are working very hard, but the bar is set very high. When it comes to looking at how the woman performs, it is so much higher. I never see you guys asking men, uko na bibi, umefanya harusi, umetoka wewe kabila yako ni wapi, kaunti yako ni wapi, umezaliwa wapi. Those are the questions you'll ask women. But you don't ask men. If a man has 5 or 6 girlfriends and 10 wives, he's celebrated. Hey, when he dume. If a woman does it, my goodness, you're a prostitute, you're loose, you're this, you're that, you're the other. So let me tell you, we need to first ask ourselves as citizens before we look at the law. So the Constitution was passed, and we said not more than 2/3 of one gender, meaning if we have 9 seats, 3 has to be one gender, 6 has to be one gender. You cannot have 7 of one gender. So we said we want not more than 2/3 of one gender. So we would have women come in. And then to help us, we created the woman representative seat so that we are guaranteed 47 will be elected, competing in the county. And I'll tell you, it's a tough job. I get the same salary as an MP for a single constituency. I have only one office, and I'm expected to serve the whole Nairobi. All right? If there's a fire in Mathare, All Watch is only in Mathare. If there's a fire in Kibra, Orero is in Kibra. If there's a fire in Ruaraka, TJ is there. And then Mama County is supposed to be in all those places, right? When it comes to resources, the men are always adding more money to their CDF because there are many. But when it comes to adding money for GAF, hakuna. So Mheshimiwa here Wandai, he has about 60 million for bursaries. Mheshimiwa here Pasaris, she has 1.6 million in the constituency. So how do you even look at me? When I come with 1.6 million in an entire constituency, when I'm told I have only 1.2 million for I can only give 2 groups per ward per year. And then people are saying, Mama County, hatukuoni. You know, let me tell you, I can't come to the grassroots. The first time I got into office, I went and did civic education all over Nairobi. I kept telling them about about the bursaries, about value addition. Let me tell you, I got over 10,000 applications. I'm still combing through some of those applications. So it's difficult because you're trying to go and sell something and you have no resources. So for me, what I want to tell you, all the women representatives, all your women leaders, they work very hard, but they are limited in resources because it's a man's world. And we're being given 1/3 in Kenya, but the SDGs, which this country is a signatory to, says not 50-50, SDG number 5. Gender parity is 50-50. So I want to tell my women first, let me talk to the women. Let us rise above party politics. Let us become women. When we see a woman, we vote a woman. Because when the women stand with each other, the men will follow suit. And you know, right now, I don't think we have a situation where a man will come and tell you as a woman what to do. Because we have a single mother crisis. Wanaume hawako, wana plant wanaondoka, wana plant wanaondoka. Wamama wote ni single mothers. So those days of being told what to do are over. You do what you have to do, support a fellow woman so that she can be able to make sure that we actually legislate, budget, oversight as women. So the tribe of women has to rise. And then we've got another category of he for she. Wale wanaume ambao hawata plant and go, wata plant and stay. Prosperity in the house. Aki watoto wenyu watafute, wanateseka mjini yangu hii Nairobi. Kila pahali naenda naona watoto wenyu wanaume. Na mama anasimama anasema single mother hakuzaa peke yake. Mulienjoy, mukaacha mtoto, mukatembea. Na wajua huyo ni wako. Hata sura ni yako. Desturi ni yako. Na umemwacha ati umeenda pahali ingine kuenjoy. Ukikunywa hiyo bia au busao Muratina, ask yourself a question. Mtoto wangu anakula nini leo usiku? Ati unajiona mimi ni dume, unanulia watu bia hapo, unajiona wewe ni mkali bure. Mtoto wako anateseka, bibi yako anateseka na unajiita mwanaume. Wewe si mwanaume. Wewe ni deadbeat father. Deadbeat father. So that was it. Tribe of women, let's stand together. He for she. Let's stand together. If you're not a he for she na unajua umeacha mtoto wako pahali, nenda mtafute. Alafu tutakuwa he for she. Thank you very much.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa. Tumpigie makofi mazuri tafadhalini. Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa Esther Passaris, for those really making the contentious issues of the 2/3 gender rule real, like vitu kwa ground, presenting it from her perspective as a legislator, someone who makes those laws, someone who lives the challenges that we see, and now also focusing on what we need to do to be able to make it better. So we thank you so much, Mheshimiwa. And we are drawing towards a close. I want to ask for 2 more questions in the second round. Oh, munaenda hapana. So we are maliba kidogo tu. I have been informed that you are sent with 9 points to share with the audience, so 7 points. Hey, I am in communication with your people, so just allow us to. So I'll take this question here, and then this question here. Edna, let's start with the lady, and then we can. Ama sababu mesha kashafika, aendelee sivyo?
Thank you, Osido. I have many, but I will just do 2 questions very quickly. Honorable Wandai, you mentioned in your speech that 6 months down the line, after the NADCO committee, these bills are somewhere. Kenyans are sitting here and others are watching. Maybe you should tell us this somewhere, I'm willing to go get them. And how many of you would be willing to accompany me to get them? Because this somewhere needs to be known who has the key and lock for that somewhere so that we can get them, because Kenyans need them. To my leader, Honorable Passaris, the 2023-2024 finance bill, you're one of the MPs who voted yes, if I'm not wrong. Would you promise that you have changed your mind now? Or you are still going to vote yes to 2024-2025 bill? Because it really hurt some of us who believed in you, who voted you in Nairobi, who wanted you to represent our voices. We shouted at the top of our voices, but you said you are looking for development in that bill. I am sure you have 1 or 2 that you can mention today in that bill of 2023-2024. If there is none, can you promise us this 2024-2025, you have changed your mind, you are being baptized? Then finally, to the 2 members of parliament remaining here, the registrar, just 1 minute, Osido, the registrar of political parties. How comes in your books, Kenyans voted Azimio as the majority? We would not have a problem that we have now if Azimio had majority in parliament. But in that period, when the Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Wetangula, were giving us the verdict that Kenya Kwanza is now the majority, I wondered where your voice was, because I needed to know, as the registrar of political parties, these clients of yours, who got what and who did not got what. You didn't say anything, you were silent, and I needed to hear your voice to confirm that all these parties are my client. This client got this much, and this client got this much. I didn't hear anything, and I got disappointed. Then lastly, Honorable Pio, can we amend something around the affirmative action? Because I don't see the reason why we should nominate one woman 3 times when there are a million other women. Why can't we nominate one woman once, go get another seat elected, and other women get that nomination? Is it really reasoning to have one woman nominated 3 or 4 times in a political party?
Thank you so much. Thank you. I hope that our leaders have taken note of your questions.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Brando Odhiambo from Shofco. I lead governance and advocacy. A quick one. I won't speak on behalf of Shofco, but I'll speak on behalf of myself as a citizen of this nation, as a woman, and as a youth in this nation. My first question will be directed to Honorable Passaris in concern to the Finance Act and Accord 1212 333 300 of the sanitary towels. The money allocated for the sanitary towels is 15 million towels, targeting 3.4 million girls for the financial year 2024-2025, which is inadequate as it equates to 1 sanitary towel per girl per quarter, which we understand that for us women, we have our menstrual cycle every month. One of my recommendations to that, and I'd love that you spread this to our fellow women representative at the National Assembly, if we can have an additional budgetary allocation for 30 million sanitary towels and provide a monetary figure in the budget for the allocated sanitary towels. If NGAF fails to supplement this figure, we'll have a reduction in the number of girls missing schools or experiencing exploitation, whereby it's sex for pad scenario. Another instance which I'll request maybe for amendment, though I know it will create a lot of tension and debate. Us as youth, we have a lower number of representation at the National Assembly. Can we get to a scenario where people will be going to the polling station and vote youth in power? Can us youths come together and amplify our voices in a reasonable way, the way women in this nation came and had their slot at the National Assembly at the women representative? Can we youth have our space in this nation whereby in the elections to come, as people are voting for the president, governors, and MP, we'll have a slot for youth, whereby the people vying will be 18 to 35 years, according to the Constitution of Kenya. Because they keep on telling us that we youths are the leaders of tomorrow. When is that tomorrow? When the government has not even allocated funds for our youths who are at the TVET scholarships, for their exit transition. A lot of youths are getting into drugs and crime. When the Vision 2030 will be approaching, then the youths cannot be that leader. So for us, we believe that we youths are the leaders of today. What is our slot at the National Assembly? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brenda, for very good questions. Mheshimiwa Wandai is itching to rush here. I wanted to invite Bwana Maliba before you...
Actually, because I want to go elsewhere, but let me just take the three questions. I think two. One is about the place of the bills, where they are sitting, if I got you right. Actually, it's not that they are sitting in any one particular place. It's just the bureaucracy that has made the processing of the bills to drag on. Remember when the NADCO team unveiled the report way back in November, and the report was duly tabled in Parliament early December. It took a long spell of time, up to early March, for the report to be debated and adopted. That was basically time wasting, and that is bureaucracy. Okay, but we are working hard to unlock it. So far, we have done our best. The other issue is about the affirmative seats. These seats that are earmarked for gender top-up. They're not just meant for women. I must clarify that. It's just that we tend to elect more men than women many times. If one time we are able to elect more women than men, we shall need men to top up. So therefore, as it is left to the political parties' discretion to determine who they nominate and for how long. That perhaps could be food for thought, if it is the view of the citizenry that we put in place some sanctions, some caveat that perhaps you don't do 1 or 2 terms in a row. We could pursue it as a way of legislation. Thank you very much. May God bless. My sister Esther, I'm also eager to hear. Yeah. Yes, your position on this punitive bill.
Okay. If you are employed, informal employment, and being taxed in your company, stand up. Formal employment. That means if you work for Coca-Cola or you work for a shop like maybe Dickens, or you work somewhere, if you're in formal employment and you're taxed, you have a pay slip, a monthly pay, stand up. So all of you are hustlers. Okay? Okay, no, go on, stand up. Yeah? I was wondering, Lazarus, haven't you got paid? Okay? All right. Okay, so basically less than 1% of the room. Have a seat. Now, this is something I want to tell you. There is no country that can run without money. And the money can come from two places: taxation or debt. Debt is not the way to go. It is so expensive and we can't afford it. So I'm in the housing committee. When you join parliament, parliament puts you, your party puts you in committees. You are asked, which committee do you want to be? I asked to be in housing and lands and budget. What I didn't know is that they had split housing and lands, and budget is the hot seat. So I was put in housing and lands. I didn't get into budget. Now, I'm a member of the housing committee. And the housing committee, you know, we've been talking about housing forever. We had housing in the Ministry of Transport as just a department. All the money was going into roads. I felt that if we had a tax on housing and the money should be used specifically for housing, we will get rid of informal settlements in our country. It is a shame that in this country, Kenya, you have super malls like Village Market, Westgate, super highway like the Express Highway, you know. You've got big towering buildings for UAP and Barclays Bank and Coca-Cola. You know, you've got maisonettes in 1 acre land, mansions that are costing $3-4 million. And then all the workers who work in all these fancy buildings, who go for sightseeing in Westgate or Junction, right, are living in a 4-roomed mabati house and sand at the bottom. All right, when there's a fire, I'm Mama County, I'm the one who's called for those fires. I'm given 1 million shillings a year for fires in Nairobi. I can only solve one fire. 1 million, fire, disaster, that's it. I have to go around begging people for money for fires. You have one fire, she loses everything. I have seen women, bodies picked from a child, like charcoal. Amekufa hapo. Why? Because their house burnt down. I do not believe that anybody in the capital city of Nairobi should live in a tin mabati house. They should not. And for that, you're not the ones who are going to pay that housing levy. That housing levy is going to be paid by the employed. But you know what's going to happen? You're the ones who will be going for maandamano to stop yourselves from getting the money. To do what? To give you those houses. You'll be called and you'll go for maandamano. You will be shot. You will die. And let me tell you, I have not seen anybody from the post-election violence up to today who has been compensated. So for me, I realized one thing. If I want to be sincere, right, let there be a tax specifically for housing. And you know, when Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka said that the first thing he'll do when he becomes president is to remove the housing tax, I believe that if he ever becomes president, nobody will allow him to remove that housing tax if the government performs. I have been in Nairobi and we have commissioned over 45,000 housing units. We need 200,000 housing units just in Nairobi alone every year. And those housing units, I know, people are saying, maskini hata pata, hustler hata pata. This is where I come in. In that committee of housing, they put 30% for slum upgrading and social housing. Then they put 30% for institutional, 40% for affordable and low cost. So affordable and low cost is supposed to be charged more. It's supposed to be bigger and better so that we can provide the social through the profits. But now that we have a tax, we can be able to say, let's make 50% social. I recently was fighting for civil servants because civil servants are going to pay the housing tax. And I found out recently that somebody bought a house from civil servants and he was charged 2.6 in Mwavoko. And somebody else bought a house from social and he was charged 1.3. So I decided to go and look at those two houses. They were identical. So I asked, why should a civil servant pay double so that the hustler can get a house? It's not fair. And the house is the same. So even if you were going to charge more, and I took on the president during the Labor Day. I told him, Mr. President, look into this thing. Because I went to Hinga, he didn't listen. I went to civil servants officers, they didn't listen. I told them, listen, you guys, you're not going to charge civil servants double for the same house. If you're going to give him any charge more, you give him maybe 50% more, but you give him a bigger house and a better house. Housing can create a lot of opportunity for us, from the making of the doors, from the making of the windows, from the making of the tiles, and a lot of employment opportunities. Engineers, contractors, you name it. I hope investors will come in and help us out. And I hope and pray that the president will be sincere and make sure that housing has zero corruption so that we can actually eliminate the slums, because we really need to. I know that right now there's a lot of tension in Nairobi, all right? And I shall be visiting a lot of these demolition sites, okay? Because I think there's a plan to do the Nairobi River regeneration. It looks beautiful, but we've displaced a lot of people. We need solutions for them. For me, the 10K is not enough. They need to be given more because already they're displaced. Some of them even didn't have time to take their furniture out. Now, 2024, I'm not happy with a number of things. I am not in the budget committee, but I went to the public participation in Nairobi. I went to the one in Dagoretti, the one in Embakasi. I sat through the public participation on the budget committee, and I'm not in the budget committee. And I was the only woman that was there, okay? Beatrice Elachi was committed, so she was not able to come. And I thought to myself, here we're discussing budget. Let me go and listen to what the men and the women are going to talk about, especially issues women. The issue of Linda Mama came. I've actually put in what you call it? I've already lobbied, done, what is it that I've done? Lazarus, where is it gone? I put in what? A memorandum here. Skipped my head. I came from the US yesterday, so I'm so jet-lagged. I should be in bed sleeping. So, but I decided I have to come here, you know? No, I didn't go with a private jet, and I wasn't in Atlanta, and I wasn't on the president's tour. I went for a spiritual nourishment. Okay, so now, and I didn't pay it with taxpayers' money. Now, I put in a memorandum for 3 issues. I put in one for the school feeding program. I want the children given food. I don't care about the differences between county government and national government. I just want our children to get food. When it comes to sanitary towels, I want our children in public, private, community, and mission-based schools to all get sanitary towels. I've been singing this song from the time I joined. We only give public, all right? It cannot be, it needs to be even more than 30 million, all right? But the thing is, we don't have women to push it. The budgets are done by men. So put more women in parliament so we can get more sanitary towels, we can get diapers for our children, we can get infant food for the mothers. There's so much we can do. All right, but we need more women to articulate these issues. All right, I also am not happy about the money moving from education. I'm not happy about the cuts in vaccination. I'm not happy about the cuts in the wages. We just came back from a strike of doctors, and then you're cutting the wages in health. So if we have to cut, I'm very clear. We don't need to renovate any of the state houses this year. We don't need to increase any more money for the executive officers. They've been okay with the money they've had. We don't even need to increase money in parliament. They've given us an increase of 3 billion. Hatutaki hiyo. Let us put the money to feed our children, to put more sanitary towels, to make sure we have vaccinations, because I hear we have a shortage of vaccinations already, to make sure that we create job opportunities, industries. You know, the Juakali industry, let me tell you, when I went to the Juakali industry and I saw the way they were working, because I gave them a job to do some wheelbarrows and some cocotenis for me. Do you know the conditions under which they work? Most of them are going to be blind by the time they are old because of the sparks without the proper goggles. Most of them are going to have Parkinson's disease because they are smoking the fumes. My father had Parkinson's, he worked in a shipyard, and the welding, he got Parkinson's. Okay, so for me, I feel that we need proper industries. We need to take that Juakali industry and give it all the necessary machinery, give it the partners to be able to do things properly. We need to make sure we don't import anything. Our partners in the East can help us with those industries. We've got to make it lucrative. There's a lot of work to do. Now, you're going to ask me.
Thank you.
How am I going to vote in 2024, the finance bill? Okay. So, let's just say, first of all, you know, my vote will not count. It will not make a difference. It will not make a difference. All right? It will not make a difference because the government has the majority. All right? The government has the majority. So they can pass it without my vote. All right? They can pass it without my vote. So for me, what is most important is if they have done the amendments that I have asked, and they have improved on the budget reduction, and they have improved on a number of issues on the bill, right, that I feel are important, right, then I will support it. But if they don't improve on the finance bill, improve on the budget, because you see, we're going for public participation, and you're all speaking your minds and your hearts. So when you speak your minds and your heart, the idea of public participation is that we listen. And if we don't listen, that means we don't need to have public participation. We're wasting your time and we're pretending to care. So I'm really hoping that the budget committee will reduce and increase where necessary, as said by the people of Kenya. And I also pray that the finance committee will listen and reduce wherever they're supposed to reduce, so that we can together build a country that is prosperous for everyone. Thank you.
Shukran. Asante sana, Mheshimiwa. If you listened to Mheshimiwa Passaris very keenly, using some very non-political eyes, you realize that she is making some very deep proposals on what we need to do. And so I want to request Madam Jane Deer to liaise with Edna and the team at Madam Passaris' office for us to have a side meeting and break down these issues. Because you are speaking from a practitioner's perspective, somebody who lives, because it's true. Every time, well, a few times I've also gone to those fireplaces to take photos and videos. I normally see her. And in fact, she's normally among the first responders to those kind of emergency issues. So we need to use that information to inform the budget. And then also, Madam Registrar, inspire Mheshimiwa Passaris to influence her fellow legislators to begin to see things the way she is seeing them. Because truly, we don't see the kind of passion like she is speaking from her fellow legislators. But if they can be able to break down the budget and analyze the priorities in the manner in which she has been able to do, I think that would be very, very possible. And I liked her response to the question, because Meshach asked, you looked like you are defending or supporting the government. So can we be able to pick up the flip side of the reasons why she's doing that and use them to inform government policies and decisions and where the citizens are? I want to request Madam Registrar to be the last speaker, but please, before you do, because you and I know where we are going to after this, Arnold Maliba. You can speak from here. Like, give us comments. I'm very happy that he has been able to find time, because we really tried to get Mheshimiwa Kimani Ichung'wah here, and also Dr. Mudhomi to come and help us understand of the NADCO, but we are glad that Kenya Kwanza team has seen it fit to get us a representative. So Mheshimiwa Maliba, karibu.
Good evening, everyone. Habari zenu. So quickly, my name is Maliba Arnold. The party as the ask them to stand up, just to wave, tafadhali. There's Anthony Ngeru, there's Sankale, there's Patience. I don't know whether I've forgotten any other person. Now, particular event is Citizens Legislative Conference. This for us was the meeting for the citizens, but then unfortunately the time to talk. We've not given you guys a lot of time to actually talk. Secondly, from the Kenya Kwanza side, they have that comes by when the news guys have left, and therefore the story that will be carried ni vile Kenya Kwanza imetandikwa. But then so quickly I'll just rush through so that then we don't take a lot of time. Number one is that we as the UDA team that is here are here to listen to what you people are saying. I need to remind you of one of Kenya's freedom fighters who is not very much celebrated. His name was Daniel Ojijo Oteko. He was the leader of a movement called Piny Owacho Movement, or the founder of what was called the Kavirondo Tax Association. Piny Owacho is Luo. I'm not very fluent in Luo, but is Luo equivalent of the people have said. Piny Owacho. The people have said. He is the guy whose name is actually given to Ojijo Road. So for us here, we had come to listen because Pinyo was seriously watching, or rather the people were speaking. So we were taking the feedback that you were giving us, but also where possible we can actually do quick input. But generally this was your event so that then you speak and we listen. You know, public participation according to Article 10 is a sacrosanct principle upon which this constitution actually exists. It's not the easy thing people do. Whether, and I would quote Paul in Philippians 1:15, I think to 18, he says that sometimes people preach the gospel out of envy, strife, and competition. So this public participation, whether people do it for other reasons, like the mchongoano we've seen here, whether people actually misrepresent facts, whether it's for purposes of hyping, but it is important that public participation goes on and eventually it will actually deepen. So I'll say this, on NADCO, the government is actually committed to this particular process because Kimani Ichung'wah and His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka co-chaired that particular process. Both the President and Raila Odinga received the report. The government is actually putting resources, and it has got teams and people who are continuously working towards ensuring that the remaining bills that Meshach was speaking about are actually fulfilled. So on the government side, there is a commitment to that end. On the finance bill, because it's actually what is quite hot out there, and I saw everybody trying, or rather getting tempted to speak about it, I need to go back to public participation. The bill is a proposal. Hello? The bill is a proposal, and public participation is not an exercise in futility. If you can look at the Finance Act 2023-2024, a lot of what people said was actually inculcated. So this is a proposal that is going out there, and whatever you are saying here is actually going into it. That is why, for we from UDA, one of the proposals we are giving the members of parliament who are here was that rather than criticize, they should also propose how to better the bill. Sawa sawa. Because the person who criticizes can actually speak quite eloquently, but then the bill is there for purposes of being made better. And I need to actually emphasize this. We as UDA, for example, are taking the parliamentary function so seriously. Because have you realized, for example, that somehow you hear this narrative about executive capture of parliament when it comes to some of this work. But when, for example, the president spoke and said that every arm of government should reduce their expenditure, Parliament was very loud and eloquent and told off the president. They told the president that they are independent. At the time when they said that, they were both Kenya Kwanza and Azimio. They spoke very fluently. So it cannot be that when it's about their interests, they are independent, an independent arm. But when it comes to the work, they start saying that there's an executive capture. That's why you actually have seen that today, for example, the Secretary General says that he's going to write to the Speaker some of our members of Parliament who are saying that they don't go to Parliament and they don't think that that is serious. For us, we understand that Parliament is a serious place for business. Parliament is a budget-making body and not a late endorser to the budget-making process. So they should not give you stories. But the biggest problem we have had so far has been this. There are a lot of us who are talking about the finance bill have not taken time to look at the budget policy statement. It's impossible to talk about the budget, the finance bill, the 136 pages, if you didn't take time to look at the policy statement that is 180 pages. The bill is simply a summary of so many other bills because it amends so many other acts for purposes of implementation. What am I saying? I'm saying that when it comes to a lot of the complaints you hear, the weakest link is Parliament. That we should not run away from. We should be bold enough to say that in our governance, Parliament is the weakest link, because when we came up with the Constitution 2010, we had this feeling and confidence that so many people cannot conspire against the people of Kenya. But like you have realized, that they will talk about capture and bribes and so many other things, but when it comes to their interests, they are very eloquent and they are very loud and they can actually hold ground. So Parliament is the NDC, the National Delegates Conference of a country, and when they speak, the whole country is speaking. So quickly to a few things that were pointed out here, it's important to actually just clear. The committee has actually reinstated the 2 billion shillings on child feeding. Diana was here. I'm actually sad that she's left. Diana talked about it, that there was no money for feeding. The committee has actually reinstated that. It was important that we speak about that. When we speak about the cut in Linda Mama, for example, a lot of the aspects that Linda Mama was taking care of is being taken care of in the Social Health Insurance Fund, and it is unfair to present one side of the story. So you understand when I say that we need a balanced story, but then it's good for us. We might not like, you might not like what I'm saying, I might not like what you are saying, but I should defend the right for you to say what you are saying. Sawa sawa? Tuko sawa? Then Mheshimiwa Pia Wandai spoke about, and even His Excellency Kalonzo spoke about taxing bread. We are not taxing bread. And that is why I am still going back to Parliament. Parliament is a budget-making body. They should not come out here and give us half-baked stories. Because before that bill comes out here, before the budget policy statement comes out, it has been in Parliament for at least 3 times. Because the budget cycle starts around September. So it's not new to them. Why am I saying that? It's because the explanation that is being given is not accurate. Bread and milk are zero-rated. What does it mean by bread being zero-rated? What it means is that the suppliers have been claiming refunds on input, and that is the biggest expenditure on our taxes. As in taxes, primarily the first function for taxes is for public service and goods provision, provision of public goods and services. Secondly, of course, the sovereign debt. But then there is the tax expenditure where we are doing rebates and refunds. The highest refund we do is on people who produce and supply milk and bread. A lot of our people don't do bread. So we are thinking, why are we subsidizing the middle class? We are footing a bill of about 90 billion that we give back to the manufacturers and the suppliers of bread and milk. It's so big, especially at this particular time. So it's important that when they give out the explanations, they make proper explanations. But finally, before I forget, the motor vehicle circulation tax. You know, on the draft, in the draft green fiscal incentives policy of 2017, government had actually proposed to have a congestion tax. That is not working. But on the motor vehicle circulation bill, or other tax, this is the point, that the cost of keeping vehicles on the road has gone high because we are building infrastructure, we are maintaining the current infrastructure. Just to have those vehicles on the ground is expensive. Secondly, we are trying to develop public transportation, and that is why you find a lot of very funny and majitu stories in explanation, especially from members of parliament. And it's not just from members of parliament from Kenya Kwanza, even on the other side, because people have not taken time to look at that. I needed just to say that briefly. I'll not go into the points because it's late and you guys need to actually give your feedback. But since Honorable Pasaris, and I would like to actually speak to her on this, she's spoken eloquently about the 2/3 gender rule. It's so, for me, it's quite passionate. It's very close to my heart because for all my adult life, I have worked for and with young people. You people knew me when I was at the National Youth Council. Some of you knew me when I was in church, when I was a student leader, when I was the TNA Youth League chairperson. As in, I have worked for and with young people most of my life. You are not going to talk about Article 27.8, the 2/3 gender rule, without talking about Article 100. I say that because in 2014, 2015, and 2016, we spend a lot of money going to Naivasha and in places to ensure that Article 100 is taken care of, where the 5 SIGs are taken care of. She might not know, but I'll actually tell you people why I'm actually taking time to speak about this. The 5 SIGs in Article 100, that is women, youth, persons with a disability, the minorities, and the marginalized. We came up with a formula where both Article 27.8 and Article 100 will be taken care of. But every time, 3 times, when the bill will end up in Parliament, it will end up being an Article 27.8 only. Somehow, the women folk will get to Parliament, alafu wanatunyonga. Walikuwa wananyonga vijana, wananyonga people with disability, wananyonga minorities na marginalized. Thank God that every time it went there, it collapsed. Because it is unfair for you to talk about Article 27.8 and forget the youth. Forget the minorities. Article 100 is not a suggestion. So we are so loud about Article 27.8. But if you do not take care of Article 100, God has been faithful. Ameshikilia wa mama. Mpaka siku ile mtakubali kutembea na vijana, marginalized, minorities na watu walemavu ndio mtasonga. Because what has been happening is that I say that because 3 times with so many people, some of the people here, I've seen some of the people we were with, that we will go spend a lot of money, come up with a formula that ensures that you do not just take care of the 2/3 gender rule, you also take care of the groups in Article 100. And somehow walikuwa wanatugonga. So, you know, if we really want to go together, it's important. This is just an advisory that the women folk, when they speak about Article 27.8, I saw somebody speaking about the place of young people. You have got a place in Article 100, but somehow it's not been sorted. So, Mheshimiwa, I was just asking kindly. So the next time people speak about Article 27.8, the 2/3 gender rule, actually wale watu wenye walikuwa natugonga, na sisi kama wanaume tukienda Naivasha kila kitu tukishughulikia hiyo mwaka, tulikubali sisi wanaume tukae kando, because if you get a young woman who is disabled, you have killed 2 birds with 1 stone. We went the zebra way because at least the people with the disability had already agreed in policy at 5%. We, the youth, then at that particular point I was young, we had accepted to just take 15% in Article 100. Lakini ikifika Parliament, wamama walikuwa wanatugonga. So, tukienda sisi wote pamoja kama Article 100, tutaenda mbali. Lakini kama mnataka kwenda peke yenu, hao wanaume wataendelea kuangusha. Mungu akubariki sana.
Thank you, makofi kwa Mheshimiwa Maliba. This is where our problem is, and I'm glad that the reason and the essence of this kind of conversations is coming out, because we need to begin to engage with the populace. Bwana Maliba, you see, you have very many good suggestions, but they're just in your head, because when we read government documents, we don't see what you are saying. We don't see, and if This afternoon we were supposed to meet with the PS of the State Department of Devolution, and unfortunately the meeting has been pushed to tomorrow because we were here. But that really speaks to how we engage with government. But you and I and all of us come from a very foundational background of where the vitu kwa ground. Because you and I, when we live here, tutatembea tu mpaka town tuchukue matatu. The big boys have gotten into V8s and they have left. So why don't we partner and package something that we can use to inform and influence government policy? So Maliba and Anthony and the others will engage to look at how we can have a number of these forums to break down government policy and not to treat it as a backlash moment, right? Yeah. And because of time, we weren't able to have a debate, because that's why I wanted the Kenya Kwanza side as well. And Mheshimiwa Kalonzo agreed to it. He was willing to have an engagement with Mheshimiwa Ichung'wah. But because he didn't come, so we were unable to have that kind of a debate. But we are willing to have engagements that present the voices of citizens and therefore influence and inform government policy and government legislation. And that's purely why we are calling it Citizens Legislative Conference and asking citizens to amka, because we are asleep. So we need to wake up and stay woke. Amka! Amka! Stay woke! Stay woke! Mheshimiwa, I want Madam Registrar to close. I don't know now what you want to say. We have some tea. Please make sure that we close together, then we can eat.
No, I just want to take this opportunity to thank Kevin and the entire team and all their partners. I have been to public participations, and this has been an amazing public participation. And I really think that if you continue like this, we'll be fine. And the ones who want more youth in Parliament, there is a way to do it. Okay? Identify the youth and put them in. You have it with your vote card. All right, but you can't say that unless we get the youth, we're not going to put the women. I mean, surely, you know, you don't have to. The women were already tumekaliwa sana kama chapati. Wewe sahi look at the youth issues, but don't stifle us. The people who are stopping the youth are the majority, and the majority are the men. Those wazee ambao munawaeka nyinyi wenyewe. So I just want to say thank you. Alafu muangalie kila mtu ameenda, ni wamama wawili wamebaki mpaka mwisho. So that should be a testament to tell you the one who will finish the road with you will be the woman. So you see, myself and my sister here, we're still here. Wanaume wote wameenda. Kwani hata mimi niko na kazi, lakini niko hapa na nyinyi mpaka mwisho, si ndio? Asante.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa. Vote of thanks. I'll invite Azimio. 30 seconds. When you were seeing off Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka, he came and told me, she's responding as she's closing. Because after she speaks, we pray and leave. He had the opportunity, Victor had the opportunity to just say hello to Mheshimiwa Kalonzo, and he shook his hand and said, Kevin, thank you so much, because where I come from, even the people we elect never show up. Just because you invited me and I've seen a former vice president and a leader of a party. So waambie tu peke yako. Just 30 seconds.
So my name is Victor Hamisi Mheshimiwa. I'm a former street boy. Yes, I champion mental health in men. Basically, Victor lost his parent at a young age. I used to live with an uncle who dragged and raped me for more than 3 months. I became a street boy for 5 years. Kama ulivyo pale stage coach na kinyesi ni mimi. I schooled myself with that job. So what I do here is a champion mental health for men. It's called Check on a Man. I'm also the face behind Man Cave on NTV. Yep. So I feed and clothe street families twice a week. Thursday kama leo, after hapa nikitoka, there's a feeding program I do every Thursday from 7:30 to 10 p.m. and every Saturdays in the morning 7 to 10 a.m. I raise the funds in 2 ways. I have 2 side hustle. I sell shoes at wholesale price. 30% of my income goes to street feeding, and every Monday to Friday from 5 up to 6, leo sijaenda, I get to Matatu to talk about mental health. Niko na some socks. Every socks I carry is 100 bob. It's a plate of food. But I've been privileged to school 4 street kids for the last 10 years. The first young man graduated from USIU 3 years ago. He's working with the Red Cross. Wapili amemaliza shule last year from Alliance Boys. The third ni kasichana kako Alliance Girls from 3. That's why I was paying for school fees. And then the last is a young man that is in grade 5 lower Kabete. For school fees, chukuangi pesa, you pay direct to the school account, and the rest is for me. So please, as I sit, I just want to say this. If you're a man out there, I'm also a dad of 2. Please don't ever die in silence. For me, I tried suicide more than 6 times, and my late wife helped me to overcome depression. So as a man, always know that it's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay for you to keep quiet and die silently. Number 2 is learn to embrace talking as a therapy. I love what women do. When they meet in saluni, kwa chama, they usually speak whatever they're going through. And last year as I sit, I'll say this: if you're a man out here using a woman, umeoa, uko na mke, or else uko na girlfriend na bado unahanya, shame on you, because if you use someone's daughter and dump her. Allow me to say this, please, because this is an opportunity. If you go around sleeping with someone's daughter and dumping her, remember this: it can be fun for a while, but when your daughter becomes of age, please enjoy when other men are using your daughter and dumping her, because what goes around comes around. God gave us one manhood, let us use it on one woman. So enda kwa YouTube, andika Victor Hamisi. You can donate clothes from kids to grown up, drop them at NTV at the shoe shiners or at the reception, or also you can donate pampers or pads, and you can volunteer your time. Thank you so much. If you want to buy a socks for 100 shillings, kuna long happy socks and an ankle socks, mtashukuru tu sana, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bwana Victor. So may I now invite our registrar of political parties to respond to some of the questions and then officially close this very exciting session. Karibu.
Thank you very much. And thank you. I think this was a very healthy conversation and engagement. And I want to start by thanking the organizers. It was very well planned. And even the mobilization was super. One, I wanted to start by, because I'll be very short, to start by responding on that question of Mheshimiwa here, the one who asked about the majority party, a coalition against the minority and all that. One, we are responsible only of what the laws tell us to do, and we are not responsible of another institution's decision. It's a requirement that Parliament is supposed to write to the Office of Registrar of Political Parties and ask about the coalition agreement, which we did and advised accordingly. If you want to go to the Hansard of Parliament, and Pasades is here, we actually advised and told them, these are the people who are in this coalition, these are the ones who are in this coalition. And at that particular time, because the coalition agreement provide the manner in which you exit a coalition, some of those parties had not completed the exit, and we told them exactly that. Then Parliament had to make its own decision, and that's how the Speaker made the decision. So really, you cannot blame us for another institution's decision, because we advised, and it's in the record, and it was discussed, canvassed in the floor of the House by none other but the Speaker himself, and he said, yeah, it's the one who actually decided, who decided this is the majority or this is the, but our advice and our letter, through a letter actually, was extremely very clear. The other issue I want to say is that as we have this conversation, let's also remember to really, as Kenyans, embrace discipline, political discipline. Even if we put regulations and legislation from here to where, if we don't commit as Kenyans to have discipline, political discipline, we really cannot make any significant progress. If you come to our shelves as a country, we have so many laws, we have so many regulations. Indeed, if you go across the country, the Africa, Kenyan election is the most legislated election. We even legislate how to pick a biro and how to how to queue. We actually over legislate. But even as we do that, as citizen first, we don't even adhere to what we have registered. And even as political class also, they follow suit. And I want to tell you, politicians come from the citizen. Yeah, the behavior of politicians sometimes reflect the behavior of the citizen. And therefore, I think it's to call upon ourselves, even those who are here and we are working in governance, all of us. When we talk about integrity, are we living to that commitment? Because to me, integrity means one, what you say and how you act are the same. So even as we question politicians, let us also question ourselves as individuals to see whether we are living up to the standards as it is required. To the question of the youth, I am usually very passionate about young people because I was given an opportunity when I was very young. And I proved myself and that is how I'm where I am today. But there's one problem. Number one, youth is a transitional period. That the people who are youth here today happen to be leaving the youth bracket tomorrow. And they abandon what they were doing at that particular time. So I think the one thing that the youth of this country, if you are youth, and I mean if you are youth between the age of 18 years, when you actually first acquire your national ID and you have the license to vote, to the age of that 5, those are how many years? About 17 years. Somebody has to plan what I am going to do with these youthful years so that you can make an impact. And because there are many, indeed, according to the last census, 66.something% are people below the age of 35. So how are you organizing ourselves as young people? Just women, we have come a long way, as Honorable Pasaris was saying. We have come a long way. We have tried to organize ourselves, we speak about it. But youth are so differentiated. They are in so many small segments. How do we bring our voices of the young people together and ask for support for institutions that are working with young people in governance like ourselves? You ask for support, we know how to organize. And then you bring all the other institutions that are working under the youth, under one umbrella, and you try to push for a movement of young people. Because you have the ability, you have the numbers even more than women, because you mix both men and women below the age of that 5. I think we need to do that. And I want to agree, we cannot therefore say, let's stop the youth, the women from moving as we wait for the youth. No, we need to move the women and then try to help you organize so that we move together as to where we are supposed to be. So I don't want to belabor the point that this is a very important engagement, and that so many of these should actually come on board as we track legislation. One other thing I want to tell you is that the other legislation, apart from the NADOC, there are other legislation. For example, we are doing our legislation proposals on Political Parties Act post the election period, after election evaluation. How do we marry this legislation together with what is happening in Parliament? IBC is doing, we are doing together, by the way, we even have a committee, a task force between ourselves and IBC and where we invite each other for posterity, for the whole, looking at all the infrastructure to make sure that it is responsive to the next general election. Then how do we come in? And you need to highlight that also, because we don't want to be the same place we were last election cycle when we amended the law 8 months. It's only Political Parties Act that was able to go through. The Elections Act remained untouched. So we are carrying over some baggage from the last other elections to this election cycle. So we really need to work together also as people in governance and in civil society to push even that agenda so that we fulfill what we are saying, that we have registration passed at least 18 months before the general election. So I want to thank you most sincerely, and all the players, the speakers who have spoken here, and they have spoken very well, and it was an honest conversation. Yeah, and we need to continue doing that. For the young man who is doing the mental health, please keep up. That is an area that is neglected, especially mental health for men. It is neglected. You are doing a very, very great job. And I urge you that we buy for him those socks today. Live with the socks so that you support. Yeah. Oh, they are bought. Let's clap for Honorable Pasaris. Yeah. Thank you very much. And with those very many remarks, I want to have the honor of declaring this workshop officially closed. Thank you.
Asante sana, Madam Registrar. So may I request for a volunteer to close for us with a word of prayer? Okay, Victor Simiyu will close. Let's be upstanding. After this, we have some cup of tea and snacks. Edna, is that correct? Yeah, so please make sure that, where is it served? At the gardens, right? gardens kama ile ya State House. Pia tuko na ingine hapa. So we go there and have some tears, we mingle, we talk, and we close the session. Thank you.
So before I pray, I'll say this. I'll kindly urge Mheshimiwa, and if you're a politician, please, I have a proposal for street families getting IDs, because most of them have never voted. So please, ningependa, that's an area where you can get votes. So please help me with that. Let's pray, please. Father, we thank you for the gift of life. We do not take it for granted you've been with us through the morning up to now. We do not take it for granted that, Lord, some of people are dead, but for us, you saw it was good for us to be the day. Forgive us of any sin that we have done knowing or unknowingly. And Father, Lord, meet our needs and wants in your own will and time. We thank you for the session we've been together here. Let it just be a point whereby we just talk and live, but let us give us the wisdom to implement each and everything. And even from our leaders, from the president to the MCA, Lord, may you give them the wisdom to lead this nation in the right direction. Let each and everything be done for the glory and honor of your name. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Na kama una kanisa, welcome to ROG River of God. My pastor is Reverend Tony Kiama.
Thank you so much. Unajua watu wanaweza fikiria ulisponsor viti hapa ndugu.